Good evening, everyone. My name is David Freese. I'm the mayor of Tonganoxie. I'm calling to order this July 21st, 2025 City Council meeting of the City of Tonganoxie. Ms. Huntington, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Partridge?
Here.
Ms. McCutcheon?
Here.
Ms. Stevens? Here. Mr. Donnelly?
Here.
Mr. Dale?
Here.
Would you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is the approval of minutes, in which we look over the minutes from the previous meeting, July 7th, 2025. Are there any questions or comments or conversation regarding the minutes? If not, I would accept a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry. I need to, they need to be amended to reflect the city council agenda and our discussion regarding the speed limit on Sandusky Road. Other than that, they're good to go.
Okay, so noted. Did you have a motion, Ms. Stevens?
Yes. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I make a motion that we approve the meetings with the amendment that Matt Partridge would like to make.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Partridge. Thank you, Ms. Stevens. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, in which we review bill payments for the previous period. Are there any questions or concerns about the bill payments? If not, I would accept a motion to approve or deny.
Motion to approve if presented.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. McCutcheon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 3 on the agenda item 4 on the agenda is old business. We have nothing listed. Mr. Porter? No sign-ups. Oh. Sorry, didn't know you moved back there. Thank you. No sign-ups. Thank you. We'll move on to new business. Item 5. Item A, downtown regulating plan presentation with multi-studio. Mr. Brakovich.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Make a couple of quick introductions, and then I'll keep my comments very brief. But we have Alexandra Purvis-Smith and Chris Brewster with Multi-Studio, who were the consultants hired for the downtown regulating plan project. And let me just recognize real quick, we have Patrick, who was part of our focus group, and Patty Bittler, who's on the city's planning commission. So I want to thank them for attending tonight. So as you are all, I'm sure, aware that the 4th Street corridor had a 20-year benefit district that expired a couple of years ago. And that's what kind of prompted us to really take, amongst other things, to take a hard look at kind of aesthetics, conditions, street conditions, parking, and things of that nature. But equally, if not more important, were, over the last, I'd say, 5-6 years, we've asked Chris Brewster, who also is our contracted planning services person, to make some creative interpretations of our existing zoning code to allow for some cool uses in the downtown. And so we wanted the regulating plan, if possible, to kind of address both of those issues: design, aesthetics, and things of that nature, but also where do we need to be from a planning code perspective to make sure that we're being welcoming to new businesses coming downtown and allowing for some creativity. And I would say from where I sat and listened to participation through the focus groups and the initial draft that was presented to the Planning Commission, I think this is a really good product. I think the images tell a good story. And, I think that the product itself is good. I'm very interested to see your reaction and if you have any additional input tonight. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Chris and Alexandra and let them go through the presentation. And as always, I'm sure they're open to questions as they come to you, or to wait till the end. But Chris, Alexandra?
Hi, I'm Alexandra Purvis-Smith. Oh, now it's working. Okay, hi, I'm Alexandra Purvis-Smith. I'm an urban planner and urban designer at Multi-Studio. And I'm going to kick off this introduction of the Downtown Regulating Plan with all of you, and then I'll hand it over to Chris. Our agenda for tonight is to walk through a brief project recap and discuss how the project has unfolded over the past months, introduce the draft plan, and just touch on some key highlights of the plan that we wanted to emphasize, and then, of course, save time for next steps and then a discussion with all of you. So today, our goal is to just introduce the Downtown Regulating Plan, and then we really do want to hear your questions, your feedback, your initial impressions at the end as well. And if anything is not clear, also please feel free to interrupt me. That's totally fine. And then up next, we'll be reviewing all the final comments and then revising those into a final draft and then moving towards the final adoption process. So I'm going to keep this brief, but we did want to walk through a recap of where we've been with this project process so you have an understanding of how it all unfolded. As George introduced, we went into this project knowing we needed to do kind of 3 different things. We needed to take a look at policy and strategies for downtown. We needed to take a look at the design of downtown's public spaces, and then target some regulatory updates to guide development in the future. So the plan has really 3 major components coming out of those objectives. The public space framework is focused on design, but also paired with a strategy to guide investments to really implement any design concepts in that section. The downtown development framework is a more specific plan for infill and development, and that is that regulating plan piece of the downtown regulating plan. And then that's paired with some strategic and more surgical code updates for 2 different districts, the historic business district and then the RI, that residential overlay as well. So really briefly, what is a regulating plan? It has a little bit more going on than your typical downtown master plan would. As we've already introduced, it pairs policy and design with a regulatory piece to implement all of that. And so it allows us a couple of cool opportunities. It allows us to create a really specific block-by-block plan for downtown as development and redevelopment unfolds over time. And then because the code updates can provide a higher emphasis on design, it allows more flexibility of use. And so it can help to promote greater activity in that way. The project has unfolded in 3 main phases. Our first phase was really focused on creating a shared understanding of existing conditions, of the challenges facing downtown, of the opportunities facing downtown, and some of the constraints that you all are working with as well. We then rolled all of that understanding into phase 2, where we focused more on engagement and conversation and goal development. And so we had multiple sessions of engagement with Planning Commission, with our awesome downtown stakeholder focus group, and then with city staff, of course, through multiple meetings with all of you. And working with all of these partners, crafted a set of goals that then carried into phase 3 and the drafting of the plan. And we're in phase 3 and wrapping up some of the final engagement. We introduced it to Planning Commission just recently, and then the next step would be final revisions in that adoption process. As we moved out of phase 1 and into phase 2, a set of different themes began to emerge for downtown that all of the stakeholders wanted to focus on and that really were the top priorities. These really could be grouped into 2 different buckets: the public realm or the public spaces throughout downtown, and then that development side as well. Under the public realm bucket, priorities we heard were traffic calming, the street design, improving safety, improving walkability, improving the experience of being on downtown streets. We heard that downtown's identity is something that everybody would really like to see celebrated and enhanced and continue to be promoted and strengthened over time. And that all needed to be paired with more practical strategies to address maintenance challenges and constraints and to address investment in downtown as well. On the development side, the character of development was a top priority, and promoting consistency with downtown's really great preserved historic patterns of development. Adding additional flexibility for living downtown was another theme that we heard. And then an emphasis on the gateways into downtown. And so you might not necessarily think of these as being in downtown, but we heard a strong emphasis and a strong desire to create more of a special experience at the ways that people arrive into downtown. So these are the goals from the plan. I am not going to read through all of this. I'm sure you've had a chance to review these already. But I just want to highlight kind of a couple of the key priorities that we had as these goals were being crafted. On the public space or public realm side, we knew that we needed to bring an emphasis on quick build, low cost, tactical strategies that could then be incrementally invested in over time. And then we also knew that a strong identity, focus on downtown's identity, was important. And so wanting to bring more creativity, and we heard a strong desire for more color in downtown and to improve that pedestrian experience as well. On the development side, there were a couple of different really high priorities. Some of them were adding flexibility for living options downtown, not just in downtown, but in the neighborhoods around downtown to begin to build up that base of support for downtown. And then a focus on compatible development with the historic patterns of downtown and celebrating what's preserved there. So I am going to walk through some of the highlights of the public space framework of the plan, and then I'm going to hand it over to Chris to go through the development side and the code updates. As we came out of developing all of those goals, 4 main sections of this part of the plan emerged. The first one is traffic calming and parking. We heard a lot about a need to implement some traffic calming along 4th Street and make it just feel safer and make it feel like a place people wanted to spend time in. And so this traffic calming and parking plan is focused on that. It's focused on some concepts to add some lower cost and incrementally buildable strategies to make the 4th Street safer. It increases parking, it adds some parking variety, adds parking quantity, and really targets some accessible parking spaces towards some key community resources. And then it also provides some street design concepts. And these are designed to do a few different things. One, again, some of these are designed to be really low cost, quick build, almost tactical urban design interventions that could be implemented very quickly and at a very low cost. I mean, we're talking paint and planters even to start to improve the safety of downtown. But then we wanted to make sure that these concepts also could grow with Tonganoxie over time. And so some of these are maybe more long-term concepts. And so the plan really, you'll see throughout the plan an emphasis on immediate and short-term and low cost, but then hopefully something that can grow with the city over time. On the streetscape side, we knew that we needed to address maintenance and cost concerns, but also continue to improve that pedestrian experience. And so everything in the streetscapes concept is designed to really pull double duty with the traffic calming concepts as well. And so anything that is designed to further beautification is also intended to improve safety and pedestrian experience as well. On the maintenance side, there were a few things we needed to address. One of them was street trees. That was an example of some of the maintenance challenges facing downtown, and so the concept presents some different strategies for relocating street trees and then allocating maintenance of those a little bit more specifically. On the programmable public spaces theme, this really centered around character of downtown and then events in downtown and really finding strategies to draw more people to downtown and to raise the profile. And so this is intended to leverage some untapped opportunities with existing public spaces and then find ways to weave them together to create a more connected network of public spaces. There's really such a wealth of parks around downtown, and this is just trying to connect them better, raise their visibility, improve access, and really turn them into really event-ready spaces. Finally, the arts, culture, and identity plan is kind of doing 2 different things. The first thing that it's doing is trying to find physical locations for public art, for historical markers, even for a future downtown brand if the city decides to go in that direction. These were things we heard really valued by all of our downtown stakeholders. And so calling out physical opportunities to continue to promote this, to continue to build a really unique, special feeling in downtown Tonganoxie. And then the other side is back to the gateway experience idea. So the East Gateway at Main Street and Pleasant Street and 4th Street is more of a recreationally focused and natural kind of character. But then on the east side, you have US 2440 and that intersection with 4th Street. And this plan promotes more of a Main Street style development oriented character. And so each of these gateways are different, but creating a unique experience that lets you know as you enter the corridor, you're arriving into a place that it's different than the rest of town and setting that first impression. Finally, quick wins were really important throughout the crafting of this plan. And so there's a section called quick wins, but each section throughout this plan really is designed to include strategies that are lower in cost, that can be implemented by a variety of different stakeholders. They don't all have to be implemented by the city. And these are designed to foster partnerships among different downtown stakeholders, between each other, with the city, designed to build excitement for downtown, and really things that can be done quickly to start raising downtown's profile in the region as well. And with that, I will give it over to Chris.
Thanks, Alexander. Chris Brewster with Multi-Studio. So I'm going to cover the development plan. As Alexander mentioned, it's partly a plan, but then partly a plan geared specifically for strategic code updates. So that's the benefit of a regulating plan. We have kind of a more direct feedback of how the plan for this local area can inform the development code. As George mentioned, we have a history of some of the unique struggles with the zoning code matching up with downtown. A few quick examples that you may be familiar with. A few years ago, we did an amendment to the historic business district regarding the old city garage property. It was proposed to be used for something that wasn't on the use list of downtown uses, and it was typically more car-oriented use, but they just wanted to reuse an existing, more downtown-scale building. So it showed that the code was set up to kind of assume certain uses came in a certain format, but this particular individual wanted to use that building. So we did an amendment where we said any use that's allowed in the limited business district could also go in downtown, provided it kept the scale and format of downtown buildings. So that was one of our first interventions to give like a little bit more flexibility to uses, particularly when someone was preserving an existing site that we knew fit in with downtown. A second one would be the library lofts, the row homes project. They had to use a more detailed plan district because the city's multifamily zoning districts didn't, although it allowed and anticipated row homes, that when you did the math on the development standards for them, they did not add up to row homes in a more walkable neighborhood format because they required too much width and they didn't give it enough density. So we had to use a plan district to get to that product. And then the third one was a recent one that the Planning Commission or Board of Adjustments dealt with it. You all may not have seen it or been aware of it, but it was a variance request for a smaller lot on a corner site in downtown that matched some of the old historic parcel lines, but didn't meet the RSF zoning standards. So we had to get creative and offer a variance. So those are all things that we've been dealing with and we wanted to actually get ahead of and have a more proactive strategy than a reactive strategy to those types of code issues. So the regulating plan is a way to do that. It's also a way to respond to all of the things Alexandra just talked about are the public realm that ties all of downtown and the surrounding downtown neighbors together. So now these development code strategies are meant to react specifically to those areas. So this is the map. These all match the current zone district boundaries, so really all that would be changing within here on the regulating plan are the standards within those districts, so it's just a general code update for those existing districts. I did want to point out two things with regard to that you'll see in the plan when we release the updated version. One area is 4th Street corridor going from the historic business district, so that red, to the west, to that west gateway that Alexandra mentioned. It's currently all zoned RSF, single family. There's some non-conforming businesses in there. And in the past, we've had requests to rezone it to commercial, which we've actually kind of discouraged because it would be more strict commercial type things along the corridor and not downtown appropriate. So one of the things we're suggesting is to, at some point, rezone that corridor to the new category we have, which is that amber colored RDT2, which would be more of a mixed use, heavily residential, but could allow more ground floor commercial office or uses on it. And that would help with some of the transitions over time, but that would be a separate step to rezone that either proactively by the city or reactively according to property owners as they come in. The second one is the depot property. We've already fielded a request from the depot owner to be included in the HBD district. It's now in one of the industrial districts because that's its current zoning. And so they've asked to be rezoned to that, so we were considering either doing that or shortly after this project, if this were to get approved, entertaining a property-specific rezoning to include that in the HBD district as well. So just an idea of like some of the things we're wrestling with on the zoning side and how we think this is setting us up better to react to some of those requests. The second major component of the regulating plan is the idea of, and this gets to more of the design aspects, so all of those public realm characteristics that Alexandra presented, we kind of feel that the relationship of buildings and sites and developments to those different street types is more important than what uses are going on. So that idea of being more flexible with uses is a great strategy to, if we're dealing with how buildings and sites relate to the public space, that's more important to the downtown character. So we came up with this idea of 4 different frontage types: a Main Street, which is the traditional street front building. The current historic business district, for example, deals with that by just saying we don't have a setback. So it allows you to build right up to the street. It doesn't require that you build right up to the street. So in some ways that pattern is somewhat at risk. So these red areas are saying, no, we're going to require you to build up to the street. The Planning Commission had been using a dated version of some historic downtown guidelines to push towards that requirement, but this code would go ahead and do that. The second one would be a transition area where we allow building to the street, but we'd also be more flexible with things that don't build to the street. The third was what we termed the workshop frontage, and that deals with the industrial areas on the east, having a more, I guess, well, we'll go through it in a minute, but a more loose frontage type for those areas that is more functional and utilitarian for those uses. And then the fourth being the neighborhood areas and improving the neighborhood streetscapes for a variety of housing types. So overall, the strategy was threefold: mainly update the historic business district standards. That was the main initiative from the development code standpoint, just because of all the issues we were dealing with that were kind of patching the really lack of standards in the HBD district, simply because it reflected historic patterns and the use of the historic business guideline, downtown business district guidelines, to get some more specific architecturally neutral but urban design based criteria for that Main Street area of the historic business district. And then eliminating what's the RI district. And all of the neighborhoods in this whole area, all the way up from all along 4th Street and north and south from Washington Street up to the highway, are in what's called a residential infill district. And it's trying to wrestle with some of the unique aspects of this, but it doesn't have a lot of guidance. It just basically says you're allowed flexibility and match the things near you, and then it's up to us as staff to evaluate that. So this is getting some more specifics for how to do that by dealing with the RSF areas and the multifamily areas that are currently zoned in this area right now. So just going to walk through a few of the examples. So for the historic business district changes, key changes are get lot and building standards that specify those traditional patterns of build to the street, maximum lot widths rather than minimum, so that you couldn't take out a whole block and put one large building. The finer grained pattern is important, and building to the street's important. Be more flexible with the uses, so that strategic amendment that I talked about from a few years ago, we're kind of bringing that home wholesale and allowing any kinds of uses as long as you're meeting that pattern, any of the commercial retailer uses that would be appropriate in downtown, but more flexibility there. Design standards for pedestrian-oriented frontages and facades, that's the thing that would replace the historic business district guidelines. So we're recognizing that those guidelines aren't just about historic character of buildings, but it's also about human scale, pedestrian oriented, so you could do a modern or contemporary building that matches some of those patterns as well. And that's the fourth point of making sure all of the key things of the historic business guidelines are in here and are part of the code for this district. And that's the red area, which is all the main area currently zoned historic business district. For the industrial areas to the east, that's the purple areas. That's a mix of light industrial and moderate industrial right now. We've run into challenges in that area because almost all of those don't meet the current standards in some way or another. So they're technically legal non-conforming uses, although they're zoned that only to get the land uses that are going on in there. The zoning ordinance is written to anticipate that industrial is out in larger industrial parks, so they have large minimum lot sizes, 1 acre and 1.25 acres. Whereas we're kind of trying to flip that on its head and say, hey, industrial is appropriate on the downtown edge, but it's appropriate when it happens in these smaller scale patterns, really reflective of what you have there. And then for the frontage types, the workshop frontage is something that would be a lot more lenient to the design issues and allow some more functional and utilitarian frontages, but also do so in a way that kind of complements the scale and character of downtown too. So those frontage types are written to anticipate a more grittier feel for those areas as well, and so we think that can help. This is just an example of how those key frontage types differ. You can see from the top and bottom picture of a lot different granularity on the pedestrian scale buildings versus the more industrial and utilitarian buildings, yet they essentially reflect a walkable downtown character in each of them. Then for the residential areas, it's more about getting a mix of different types. As Alexandra mentioned, one of the goals coming out was to improve living options and opportunities in downtown, and we'd experienced some inquiries and pressures showing that, the library loss being the biggest example, but there's also been lots of smaller examples where we've had inquiries of, how does the code support or not support this? And for the most part, we're supporting it, but we're supporting it through a more reactive strategy. So getting a more proactive strategy towards the range of residential building types that are appropriate in this area. So what we did was we took all of the residential districts that are in there. There's 3 now plus the planned district, and we broke them basically into what we call residential downtown 1, which is primarily single family or house scale buildings, and that reflects what's currently allowed in the combination of RSF, the single family areas, with the residential overlay. The residential overlay for this whole area says, well, duplexes are now appropriate as well, and so that combination gives us what's in the left column there of the range of types. And then our DT2 is basically a combination of your current RMF and 1 and 2 districts, things that are row homes or small apartment buildings. So again, the library loft being a good example of that. And so we were able to go through each building type and write standards that are more appropriate for the block and lot patterns that you have in downtown right now. And so that would allow a broader mix of housing types. So the new additions are codifying that smaller lot opportunity for corner lots or in-grain blocks in downtown. Some of the things that we were experiencing through variances or people trying to use the old prior platted parcel lines. And then on the upper end, trying to accommodate row houses and small apartments in a more appropriate fashion for these neighborhoods. So this is a map showing the scale of that area. The black dotted line is everything that's in the RI district now, and then the two yellowish colors, the light tan and then the gold, would be those 2 different downtown districts of where they are. And again, those are currently mapped, the lighter color being RSF and the darker colors being either RMF1 or RMF2. So some of the key changes for the RDT2 one, again, merging them, getting the row houses to be more appropriate. The other part was adding, again, similar to the commercial areas, in adding these new opportunities and adding new things that mix together, the big strategy to ensure compatibility is to, again, regulate based on neighborhood frontage type. So where do the buildings sit in relation to the streetscape? How are garages and parking accessing it? Trying to promote buildings engaging the street more than car-oriented aspects of lots and blocks, and trying to get some of that more intense or more car-oriented stuff internal to the block as quick as possible, to allow a more pedestrian-oriented scale to the neighborhoods is the goal of the design standards. And the last part of this area was promoting some more strategic infill patterns, and I'll have a couple slides at the end that will show some of those opportunities that we see. But this is an example of how we viewed the neighborhood standards. We started with neighborhood streetscapes as being the most important, improving the quality and caliber of that opportunistically, then looking at the building design and massing, and lastly thinking of frontages and social spaces with homes and how homes relate to those streets, can allow all of those types to mix compatibly within the districts. For the strategic infill options, on the RDT1, that house scale district, there were three. The small lot homes that I mentioned, where maybe if someone had a large lot, they could split it into two. We've had some inquiries for that. Or if it's an old historic platted building line, we would be able to evaluate that and allow it in that manner as well. And all of that would be guided by some criteria that we have in the code. Accessory dwelling units are currently allowed right now. They're listed as secondary units or guest houses. However, some of the standards are a little bit obscure and unclear, so we're just emphasizing that those are allowed. That's a continuation of your current code, so someone could use have an attached unit to the home or a detached structure they could use as a home. The upgrade we're doing here is when that occurs, there are some elevated standards for it to be compatible with the lot in the existing building, whereas right now that's not exactly clear in the code, so we are emphasizing that. And then the last is what we're calling a courtyard pattern. It works particularly well when you have either unusually deep lots, which there's some of those in and around the downtown neighborhoods, or more particularly when there's unusual block patterns where a street may not connect. So areas to the south have this a lot, and so it's a way to get more housing if the lot doesn't necessarily front on the street, and it fronts on a more private courtyard. And it has some design standards and limits as well, but it gives more opportunities for some of these sites to be used for more infill development. And then on the upper side, the RDT2 areas, this is why I mentioned the 4th Street corridor and potential rezoning. We have some strategies where that district could allow some limited mixed use, so residential on top, ground floor on the bottom at specific locations. That 4th Street West corridor would be a good one. It's really emphasizing that missing middle housing that we're talking about, so the next scale of building up from a house, so anything from a 3 to 4 unit house, row house, or small apartments. And then also allowing a courtyard pattern for those building types as well. It could be an efficient way to get multiple multi-unit buildings on a site and get some critical mass of density to help support the downtown businesses really proximate to these businesses. So that's it for the code updates. Again, I'll be happy to go back and answer any specifics or questions you might have on them and how it compares to what the code says now. Just to round out what Alexandra introduced, we're receiving discussion. We had this similar presentation with the Planning Commission last month. We're continuing to collect any comments they may have. We would like comments for you, and as staff, we're reevaluating it. Since this is a plan and a code update, it's going to need to go through the full public hearing process of a public hearing at Planning Commission and then a public hearing before you all to adopt it. And so we'll be working with the city attorney to get that all in order as well. Hopefully by late summer or early fall would be when you'd see it coming back. But we're happy to take any questions now, or if you're mulling it over the next few weeks, we're open to continuing comments during that period as well.
Council, do you have any questions?
The last 3 or 4 slides that you presented, I didn't see those, and it's probably user error on my part in the presentation that we.
They're not in what came in our package. Okay. They weren't.
Yeah, if you could share them with Dan
sure.
or George and then send them along.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. My memory is jogging now that at some point when I lived in a different city and I was helping with some committee, we did talk about the importance of allowing some infill development, especially in older neighborhoods. It was against all the zoning rules at that time in that city, and talked about there are a lot of benefits to having more dense housing for the benefit of the community, and having more home first or business first instead of car first or garage first developments, just to have a more vibrant community and more connections between people. I generally like those concepts. I'd just like to look at them,
Yeah,
again.
sure, we can get those
Yeah.
for you.
Thanks, and thank you, planning and zoning. I mean, it's a lot of information that you all have gone through with our consultants and our plan developers. good for you.
I have just a general question on the industrials piece. I mean, it's over half of the total concept. And obviously, I don't have my head around what industrial in the downtown setting is, but
It's where the
it's significant.
water towers are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot. It doesn't mean it's good or bad, I don't know
Yeah.
that.
it was already zoned like that, wasn't it, Patty?
Yes,
Yeah. Well,
but is that a realistic amount of space for that type of use in that specific? Now, it's driven out, absent the floodplain, because there's a ton of floodplain down there.
Yeah.
But absent that, is that, I mean, that seems to be out of proportion.
Yeah, I don't know the specific answer to that, but what we looked at was, what's going on negatively affecting what we all want out of downtown, which is the commercial Main Street area. And even at this current situation, we think no, we have seen some transitions go in the opposite way. In other words, we've actually expanded the HBD district to the east, so I could see it, it would be fully supportive of this plan to go expand more downtown scaled uses east into that area. The balance we were trying to take was that we didn't feel it was appropriate to go rezone that to historic business district. So we wanted those people to retain their rights and current uses because they weren't detrimental, but we did three main things to help with that. One, recognize that although it's zoned industrial, what we wouldn't want would be industrial uses meeting the IMT and ILT standards, because that would suggest combining, to meet the lot standards, combine all those lots, and now all of a sudden you have a large industrial user there, which probably wouldn't be appropriate. But some of the things that were going on there, we were like, well, that could be a contributor. So that's the first thing, is to making sure that it's truly only limited to small scale applications of those types of uses. And in that case, they can support a downtown district. The other two were that workshop frontage, so to say that as property improves, we would like to see the appearance of some of those be upgraded. So how are you relating to the streetscape? So if it's a large storage area use, maybe that's fine, but you need to have a better streetscape presence with your building frontage, and the more grittier utilitarian stuff would be in the back of that property. And then the third would be, it does open up more opportunities for them to go to a more mixed use. So if the industrial uses aren't surviving in that environment, there's certainly more commercial or edge of downtown opportunities that will be available in this area as well.
There's a couple larger tracks under control by one person or
Yeah.
two people up through there, and that makes, being a developer, I track all that. And I'm just kind of wondering, because it stops, in my map, it stops, and I'm seeing it on that map, which we don't have. It kind of goes a little bit farther. But I just wondered, we wouldn't limit those people to develop that in a different way than industrial.
No, so actually, the depot is kind of a good example, but it's just a small example of it. But if people come in to rezone to HBD, the plan's certainly supporting that if it's going the other direction.
Okay.
It's more of recognizing what's there now and saying that can continue to support downtown if it's continued to be done in this way. But there's other rezonings and redevelopment that could support downtown as well.
Okay, that's what I look for, thank you.
Yep.
Quite fascinating, actually.
Very. Anyone else? Oh, great work. Looking forward to see where it goes from there. Thank you.
Thanks. And we also would thank the Planning Commission, our stakeholders. It's been a great project to work on, and we're excited about it too. So we're pretty hopeful that it solves a lot of our problems, but has some good things in store for downtown.
There's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Great opportunities.
Yeah.
Now, you gotta have landowners and people who wanna make investments and all that stuff, but I think it's an incredible opportunity.
Okay, George, sorry, Mr. Brockovich, is there any action item we need to take?
No, I think we've all taken notes based on your questions and comments, so this will be back.
All right, thank you. Item B then is consider approval of utility rate analysis proposal provided by Carl Brown. Mr. Porter? Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. So this item includes an agenda statement and a detailed proposal in the City Council agenda packet. You'll recall that the last rate study, comprehensive rate analysis, and resulting rate changes were considered by the City Council and approved in 2019 and enacted in 2020. We went with a proposal for a reconsideration and reanalysis completed by Carl Brown of GettingGreatRates.com. You'll remember Carl was the same main principal on the last project if you were on the City Council at that time or followed his report. He provides a product in these rate analysis for small and medium-sized water districts and municipalities under the Kansas Rural Water Association rates program, where in essence they provide discounted rate pricing for rate analysis efforts by members of the KRWA Association, of which the city is one. Back in 2019, the analysis cost was just under $12,000, and this year the proposal has several different service options. Options 1 and 2 are which options staff recommend the City Council consider approving. The total cost for those professional services would be $18,006, which is under our budgeted expectation of up to $20,000. And that would be paid for by the water and the sewer operations funds. You'll remember that the detailed analysis that comes in the report, it can be expected to be probably 15 to 25 pages in length, but a summarized set of results and recommendations will be the work product of the report. If you have any questions about how the process works, staff would be happy to talk through that with you, but we've reviewed it with Kent Heskett and reviewed it in detail at City Hall and don't have any concerns with the proposal as presented. And again, our motion action recommendation is to accept packages 1 and 2 and commence work as soon as possible. Happy to take any questions you have.
Questions, council?
I think I was the only one on council when he gave his presentation. You were off then, Jake wasn't on yet?
I've seen more than one though,
Oh, okay.
but not, I don't remember this guy.
But he was I thought he was, well, it was a lot of information, but he did a great job at summarizing exactly what was happening with our water rates in Tonganoxie. And it was pretty enlightening. I can make a motion.
Sure.
If you all are.
Go right ahead, you bet.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. The 2025 adopted budget include $28,000 from the Water and Sewer Operations Fund for funding to support this project. Oh, here's the action. Consider it, what am I doing? I know, I'm like right there. Oh, I see. At the very end? Why don't you make a motion? I thought I had it pulled up.
I'll make a motion to direct
Oh,
city
there it is.
staff to acknowledge acceptance of and issue a notice to proceed for the scope of services described as services packages number 1 and 2 with Carl Brown of GettingGreatRates.com in the proposal dated July 3rd, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Dale and Ms. Stevens. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you, Jake.
Stevens. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Can I ask one question on the water?
Sure.
Before we move on, I almost thought maybe we should ask it first, but, and Kent's not here. Do we allow for 2 water meters? And first of all, this is a selfish, and I'm fully disclosing that it's a selfish issue. But when I built the bank building, we put in a separate water meter for their watering system, because it's their watering and
Irrigation, yes.
And so, but I talked to Kent, and everything was cleared before we did anything, because it only made sense. They're gonna water an acre of land, and they're not gonna use hardly any toilet. Do we have regulation in allowing multiple water taps per that do not get sewer connected to it. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
We do, yeah. In our water and sewer regulations, we have a procedure that allows that exact circumstance. The advantages include, in the off-season when you're not watering, you can deactivate that account and not pay the monthly minimum fees and
But we're seeing a lot more
associated
sprinkler
charges.
systems. First of all, I have one watering over 3/4 of an acre, and I understand what it does to the water bill.
Yep.
But we're seeing a lot more and more of those come online where 10 years ago hardly had any in town. Now everybody has them, which is a water change. And is that reflective of does this guy need to look for that? I should have brought that up. Do we need to do
That could be
or
feedback
address
we ask him to look into, and we'll make a note of that and have him look at it a
Does that
little
make
more
sense,
closely.
though?
Yes, yep,
You
we
get-
understand.
You get 1,000 houses on sprinkler systems, it's different than, now they're gonna have to pay a fee to buy a new water meter and spend the money to connect and all that garbage that goes with it. But if you're spending $500 a month for water, that may be a logical thing for somebody to do, and do we have regulations that control that?
Certainly, yep.
Okay.
We'll make a note about that.
I hadn't thought about that. Okay. Moving on to item 6, the city manager agenda. Mr. Brockovich.
Just one item this evening, Mayor, and that's the June financial report. I think Mr. Porter has that one under control.
It's at least 45 minutes tonight, Mr. Partridge, so settle in.
Take the over.
All right, our June financial report reflects actuals through the end of June, which is halfway through the city's fiscal year. We still retain about $370,000 in funds committed and encumbered for ARPA funds committed and encumbered for the wastewater treatment plant design project. We are in close communication with BG and our partners at KDHE to help advance that by no later than the end of next year, which is the deadline for spending the entirety of those funds. So as you'll track that project moving forward, hopefully in the next several months, there's several council action items we expect. We'll be moving ahead with some of those expenditures. I won't go into too much detail on the rest of the executive summary. I actually want to point out a couple notes later in the report. On report page, the sales tax page, page 4 of 20 of the report, you'll see that our total city remittances of sales tax are up 6.9% compared to last year. Last year was slightly below budget projections, so we're not 6.9% ahead of budget, but we are in a very positive situation. Almost the entirety of that $58,300 ahead of last year pace is in use tax, compensating use tax. So that's something that, like we've mentioned in previous months, we'll be looking at a little more closely to help understand why that compensating use trending ahead of last year's actual and ahead of budget is the case. On the county side, sales tax is also right about flat, and compensating use is up as well. But overall, county sales tax is only up about 4.8% compared to last year. Moving ahead to pages 5, 6, 7, and 8 of and 9, excuse me, of the report. This is some detail from our new recreation management system at the water park. So page 5 shows admittance analysis in the top of the page on a daily, week-to-date, month-to-date basis as of the month of June, the end of the month of June. So you can see in that reflection that like the June 30th of this year, we had only 133 admitted, but the week-to-date that week-to-date isn't correct, I'm sorry. The month of June, though, we had over 8,500 people admitted. And those are day pass purchasers, season passes that elect to come, and all of that added up together. The annual analysis in the center of that page shows the month of May was a really slow month in 2025. As you'll remember, we had a cold snap, rainy weather. The timing of how the pool opening date started also was a little shorter in the month of May this year compared to the prior year, but you can see that May to May from 2025 and looking back at 2024 was about 1,000 person decrease, which is significant and put us behind, I would say, going into this season. June was also about 500 patrons short compared to last year, but again, some of that's based on seasonality, the weather conditions, days closed. We had a few days with power outages this year in June that weren't the case last year in June, where the facility wasn't able to operate fully. July and August are both pretty strong months for us, as you can see looking back at 2024. So we'll continue to provide updates as we get to the end of those periods for the council. On page 6 of the report, which includes membership breakdowns, this shows attendance and the percentage of overall attendance by types of day passes or season passes. And I think it's kind of interesting, just on a high-end scale, to look at and kind of conceptualize that adult and child day passes make up about 37% of our total visitorship, and almost 45% is group season passes. So I think you can see by that breakdown kind of where the trends and users and their choice of admission methodology or type into our facility. You can see the same breakdown for 2024 on page 7 of the report. There's some difference, but not a significant amount. There was a slightly higher number of child day passes this year compared to last year as a percentage of overall admittance. But one thing that factored into that was the removal of the ticket punch books that used to be offered. I think a lot of places like daycares used to buy those, and because they were at a discounted rate, and obviously used children admittance in that case. So instead, they seem to be buying more of the child day passes from what the numbers show. Finally, page 8 of the report shows a breakdown of revenue by category for the months of May and June this year. Day passes and rentals are not insubstantial, but they're not as high as the 42% of our revenue that's attributed to season pass purchases. And then concessions is right there in the ballpark with rental revenue to date at $14,500. And swimming lessons, which are now generally near the end of the season, are coming in at about $17,000. A couple notes on swimming lessons that weren't included in the report detail, but we ran some other reports to get statistics about who's using our swimming lesson program. So 37% of the registrants are not city residents or residents of zip code 66086. That was surprisingly high. When we looked at it, we anticipated it'd be a little larger. So only 63% of the people who registered do report a local resident zip code. What's kind of interesting too is the communities that reported residency. Basser led the way with 56 registrations. McLouth and Linwood were both in the 20 ballpark. Leavenworth's in the 20 ballpark. And we had people from as far away as KCK, Perry, and Lawrence that chose to visit our facility and use swim lessons. Some cases we're aware of are like family members who visit family here and choose to participate or have other situations like that. But just some interesting statistics that we found. Group memberships too were down 16 compared to last year, but last year was all year long and this year was just through the end of June. But those are down 14 in the category of group, so we're not sure what's causing that. It could be the case that the new pool opening in Lansing took some people who used to have season passes here and chose to maybe spend more time up at that newer facility. Finally, just because it was very detailed and in the weeds, on page 8 of the report, we showed a breakdown, page 9, excuse me, of the concessions item, and the top seller is soda pop, but that includes every type. We didn't show the report that's Dr. Pepper versus root beer versus everything else. They can do that. Nachos are the top food product, pretzels, and ice cream sandwiches, which are in direct competition with Three Sisters, just a block away. The rest of the report is in similar fashion to what the council's seen on a monthly basis. We'd be happy to take any questions you have, though.
Council, do you have any questions?
Man, I was gonna say almost everything you said about, because I'm using October 2024, the mid-month meeting, as a kind of a year-over-year look, because that has some more data than this report did. You could see a bit of a story, and I think that you gave a lot of good reasons as to why we're kind of seeing some of the trends. A couple ones you didn't mention I think might be interesting. Just when I was looking at data, there's been only 1 month since 2009 where July was a better month than June. So I think that it's probably safe to say, no matter what the weather, we won't have more than 8,500 people go in July. And if that's the case, there's a decent chance we won't hit 20,000 this year for the first time since 2016. So it's an ever-changing landscape, and I think our rates have stayed the same from '24, right?
They have, generally.
Yeah, other than the punch card change, I can't think of any. So it's just something to monitor as that facility gets older. The usage is still very strong. I think you're right, a lot of it's weather and the Lansing thing, but we are losing little by little because it'd be the second or third straight year of declining attendance.
Facer has a splash pad park that, you know, wasn't previously as close to us.
There's one in North Lawrence too.
Yeah.
Yep, they're
And
adding
really, if it
those.
wasn't for the post-COVID bounce, we would be seeing a drop in attendance every year since 2014, really, so.
Well, we had a pool party there on Friday night and it was lovely. It's a beautiful facility.
I really like nachos.
Anything else, Mr. Barkovich? All right. City Attorney agenda, Ms. Kerselich?
No items, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem agenda, Ms. Stevens?
No items.
Okay. City Council, do you have anything? I have nothing either, so I would accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Mr. Dale. Thank you, Mr. Partridge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Thank you all.